coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. Time to get into the NFL action. Week 4 coming right up. Now, I've got to be totally honest, because that's one thing I like to do with my audience. The only thing that I owe you is the truth and my opinion. And the truth is about this week, there aren't that many great matchups. However, there are two that I was really looking forward to. I say was because one of them was that Thursday night matchup between the Lions and the Packers, which my Lions ended up winning fairly convincingly. So I said before the season started that I thought the Lions were going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and on top of that, win the whole thing. Now, I was called crazy, a delusional Lions fan, a unobjective sports prognosticator, which was easily the most hurtful of them all, but I've realized that there are going to be 5 different stages to my Detroit Lions to the Super Bowl prediction before the start of the year. And 2 of them have already happened. So first, here's what happened. So the majority of the media coming into the season says, Lions are a cute story and all. They might make the playoffs, blah, 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 but they're not a contender. No one coming into the season thought they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders, like a pick. You know what I mean? Like, people would say, yeah, they'll probably make the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game, but the divisional round is their peak. That's their ceiling. I said no. They might make it further than that. Media totally disagreed. But after week 1, this is stage 2, the consensus was, yeah, okay, the Lions are good. They might make the championship game or might win a couple playoff games, but they're not in the same breath as Philly or San Francisco or Dallas. They need a lot of injuries and stuff to go their way for them to make a long playoff run. And again, I disagreed. I said our roster matches up pretty well with every single one of those teams. If you look at it on paper, we've got talent everywhere, which moves on to stage 3. We're going to be 12-3 coming into the game against Dallas week 16. And when that happens, people are finally going to realize that we are an undisputed top 4 NFC contender with the Cowboys, Niners, and Eagles. And some people are going to start picking us. We're going to be little sleeper picks. I think the Lions could make the Super Bowl. The real hipster kind of vibe going on. If you want to be different with your NFC Super Bowl pick going into the playoffs, you might pick the Lions. As the playoffs begin and we beat some, the Falcons or the Saints or some lower tier NFC team in our home playoff game in the wild card, whoever we're playing next, the media is going to start to realize that they match up pretty well against that team, whether that's the Niners or the Cowboys or the Eagles or any other, or the Seahawks, any team in the NFC, really, we match up well against them. There is not a single team in the NFC that I think has an undisputedly better roster than the Lions do, except maybe the Niners. But we have the more proven quarterback, the better quarterback, the undisputed top 10 quarterback, not the undisputed last pick of the draft. We have a first overall pick. There's levels to this. We have the better quarterback. So people are going to start to realize this. That's stage 4. And then the 5th stage is we win the Super Bowl. We beat those teams. Like I said, the Niners are our biggest competition in terms of roster. We have the better quarterback. The Eagles, we have a better roster then, and I say the quarterbacks are about a wash considering what they're asked to do in the offense and considering how Jalen Hurts is playing right now without Shane Steichen being his offensive coordinator. Guys, I am not a fortune teller, but the other thing I'm not is biased. I have very clear vision on what's happening with this Detroit Lions team. I just saw it before anyone else did because I see things before anyone else does sometimes. And they just so happen to be my favorite team. And it just so happens that I knew all of this was going to happen. It's really a perfect storm coming into this season, to be totally honest with you. I can't wait. And when they do win the Super Bowl, this podcast is going to go nuts. Instead of hundreds of views, I might get twos of hundreds of views. I might be perking up. I can't wait. And also, just a little side note, I came up with this little side take last night. Your D-line is kind of like a basketball team. So you kind of need a superstar to open everything up so that other guys can get matched up single so they can do their one-on-one moves instead of getting, chipped and other stuff. So you need to focus attention on one guy. Like LeBron, he can penetrate and kick out to wide open 3-point shooters. Aiden Hutchinson on this defensive line is our LeBron. You have to double team him every play, or he's at least going to get a pressure on your quarterback. He's top 4 in Defensive Player of the Year rankings right now, to my estimation and NFL.com's. Just a little side take. But there is another really good matchup coming up on Sunday. Bills Dolphins. I feel like the Dolphins have been in a lot of really good matchups this season, except for last week when it was very entertaining for all of the wrong reasons when they put up 70. The consensus going into this game is the Bills are the best defense the Dolphins have played all year. And I would agree with that. But I think we need to put in context what the Bills have done to get that top ranked defense. They're ranked number 2 right now in the league in points allowed and yards and all of the important defensive stats. The Bills have so far played the Jets and Zach Wilson, the Commanders and Sam Howell, and the Raiders with Jimmy Garoppolo. Those are 3 of the bottom 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, one of which being the literal worst quarterback in the NFL. I've got to be honest. If you were to put the Jaguars defense, or I'm trying to think of another just like average, maybe the Seahawks defense, against those 3 teams, I think they might be ranked top 5. They might not be ranked number 2, but they might be ranked top 5 just based off the incompetency at the quarterback position. The Bills defense is massively overrated right now. They have never seen anything like this Dolphins offense this year. I know they played them last year, and I want to talk about that in a second. But first of all, the Bills offense is nowhere close to the Dolphins. The Bills offense is good. Diggs is a really good number 1. They don't have a number 2. They kind of use their tight ends like Knox and Kincaid kind of split that number 2 role because they're really, really big on that big target coming up the seam in the middle. And then you have Gabe Davis as a number 3. He's pretty good. But their offense doesn't compare to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, who's looking like he's completely revitalized since coming with Mike McDaniels. That new kid who just put up 50 points in fantasy the other week, who everybody had on their bench. His last name starts with an E. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but Tua is wheeling and dealing right now. And when you put Tua in a position where all he has to do is make quick decisions, get the ball out accurately, he doesn't have to be Superman. He is one of the most effective quarterbacks in the world. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the world, no doubt about it. But when I look at his supporting cast and I look at his defense, a lot of it just screams that Miami is better than they are. It's a nice weather game. The Fins are going to be in the sun. It's going to be cold, but oh well, it's not raining, so that would play in Buffalo's advantage. Perfect weather for Miami. And the Dolphins have been really, really good against the Bills recently. They almost beat them last year in the playoffs with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. Bills won by 3 points. They split last year in their games. Bills won one of the games by 3. Dolphins won their game by 2. So combined in the last 3 games, Buffalo is plus 4 points on the Dolphins. In one of the games, the Dolphins played their backup quarterback. So if you look back at their history recently, it's been pretty Dolphins leaning. And this year, when their offense is clicking like we've never seen it click before, I think that's too much for the Bills to handle. I don't think the Bills are going to be that good this year. I know they've been good recently because they played bad teams, but overall, in the grand scheme of the NFL, I don't think they're going to be near where they were a couple years ago, making it to not back-to-back, making it to a championship game, and then barely losing in the divisional game. I don't think they're going to get close to that. I think they're out in the wild card round this year. And I think the Dolphins have a legit chance of making it to the AFC Championship game and maybe the Super Bowl. I think they're on different levels right now. I like the Fins in this game a lot. Thankfully enough, that leads perfectly into the next segment, Spit's Picks. 5 picks this week. I have a combined record this year of plus 3 games on the year. My first pick is Dolphins plus 2.5 over the Bills. Getting points, as I just explained, I think they're the better team. I think they've got a lot clicking for them right now, and it's a perfect weather game for the Bills, considering they're going to Buffalo. If you're Buffalo, you would have loved to have your home game against Miami later in the year, in December and November, when it gets really cold and weather is affecting what this offense could be, but that's not going to be the case. So that's my first pick. Dolphins plus 2.5 over the Bills. Patriots plus 7 over the Cowboys. This line has been bet down to 6, but I was able to get it at a full touchdown. So the Patriots defense is somehow underrated every single year. Like for the last 20 years of my life, or I haven't lived 20 years, but for all of my life, it seems like the Patriots defense has not been talked about as one of the top units, but always is. You know what I mean? This year, they are really, really good. I think Gonzalez on CeeDee Lamb is going to be a really tough matchup for Dallas. And I don't know if I trust Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup to consistently create separation for Dak. And his offensive line is average at best, going up against Matthew Judon, who this year statistically has been every bit as good as Micah Parsons in terms of sacks, tackles for loss, tackles, pressures, all of that. He's been just as good as Parsons has. And Parsons is kind of the consensus DPOY at this point. I think the Patriots offense is all about running and establishing that ground game. And you can tell, thanks to that Arizona game, that you can run on this Cowboys team. I think the Patriots have a really good chance at winning this game outright. The fact that I'm getting a full touchdown against Dallas seems like free money to me. I'm very excited about this bet. Patriots +7 versus Cowboys. Jags. I'm picking them -3 over the Falcons. All right, listen. I still think the Jags are a really good team. I think they've got pieces. I think they've got their quarterback. I think they've got their number 1 receiver, their number 2 receiver, their number 3 receiver. They have a solid tight end. I think their defense is opportunistic, but I don't think they're used to being a great team yet, or an above average team even, because they've been such a destitute franchise for so long. They have to learn how to be great. And what comes with that are stinkers. That's what last week was. And usually, if you're great, you bounce back from those stinkers in a big way. And what better way to do that than play against the Atlanta Falcons with Desmond Ridder, who just went into a shell against the Lions defense last week. I think the Jags get to him. I think Calais Campbell has a huge game. I don't trust the Falcons secondary further than I can throw their D linemen. I think the Jags cover the 3 points. I would have loved it at 2.5, but I'll still take it at 3. Rams getting a point versus the Colts. I don't understand this line. When I first saw it, I couldn't believe my eyes. Do people realize what the Rams have done this season? They are not who we thought they were coming into this year. People thought they were going to try to tank. They were going to trade everybody, try to go for Caleb Williams so they could have another show in LA, get that market attention. But no, they smoked a really good Seahawks team in week 1. Just annihilated them. They lost by 7 to probably the best roster in the league in San Francisco. And they lost by 3 last week to a Bengals team who was playing for their season, as desperate as they possibly could be. Puka Nacua is a revelation. He is Cooper Kupp before Cooper Kupp became Cooper Kupp. And what I mean by that is Cooper Kupp used to be pretty much exclusively in the slot, taking those little 3 to 10 yard routes over the middle and just really slicing you up, moving the chains. He has become that. And since Cooper Kupp's moved to more of a traditional wide receiver, stretching the field, he's going to be that guy underneath as soon as Cooper comes back. And him and Stafford have a great connection. I still like Higbee a lot. I think the Rams cover. Well, they're getting a point. They're not covering anything. But against the Colts, Richardson's first game back off of a concussion. The best thing he does is run, and I think he'll be a little cautious doing that considering the injuries coming off of. Rams +1 versus the Colts. Ravens coming in at +2 versus the Browns. Now listen, when I give you these picks, I like to, give cool stats and math and all kinds of odds as to why my pick is going to be right because it makes me seem smart. But in this case, my pick for this is really, really simple. I think the Ravens are better than the Browns are, and they're getting points. I think their quarterback is better. I like their weapons better. I think their defense is worse, but I think the Browns won't be able to move the ball very much considering the Ravens secondary. And I think the Ravens are just the better roster, better coached for sure. If I get the better quarterback and the better head coach and getting points, I'm usually going to bet them. And the Ravens +2 versus the Browns is just too juicy not to take up. And my last pick, I usually don't like taking big favorites to cover, but Chiefs -8.5 versus the Jets. I don't see how the Jets score 14 points, and I don't see how they hold the Chiefs to less than 28 points, and that covers the spread. It's pretty simple. Patrick Mahomes, since coming back off that weird start, not even a bad start, just a weird start against the Lions, and then the Jaguars, has been unbelievable against he was unbelievable against the Bears, but we know how good he is in general. So I think he's going to light up this Jets defense. They don't have anyone who can guard Kelsey. Their strength is their cornerbacks. If you put a corner on Kelsey, Mahomes is just going to throw it up high, and Kelsey's going to come down with it every time. Matchup nightmare, and I don't see how the Jets move the ball. So I'm going to take the Chiefs, and I'm going to swallow the 8.5 points. So what did you guys think about my picks, about the episode, my Super Bowl pick? Please let me know in the comments below. Tell me, what game are you looking forward to watching on Sunday? You all know where I'm going to be, watching Red Zone on my couch. Hopefully you guys are too. Live tweeting the game as usual. As always, thank you all so much for watching. The Spit Sports Show comes out every other day, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.